Welcome people. Today we will discuss the most important bacteria that is Mycobacterium tuberculosis which spreads from person to person through sneezing, coughing or even just talking. Let's cover the general characteristics of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It is an obligate aerobe. It means it requires oxygen must for its survival. Without oxygen, it cannot survive. It is an acid-fast bacilli. Bacilli means rod-shaped bacteria and acid-fast means it resists decolorization with strong acids. As we know, in gram staining, we use decolorizers like acids and alcohol for the decolorization of the stain. But here, this bacilli cannot will be decolorized with strong acids because of the thick mycolic acid layer in their cell wall. Mycolic acid is basically a lipid which is made up of long chain of fatty acids from carbon 78 to carbon 90. So due to this reason, we will not use gram stain and we will use Zn stain instead because the carbonfusin in the Zn stain can penetrate the thick mycolic acid lipid layer deeply and will stain the bacteria red. The virulence factor of Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the cord factor. As we know, virulence factors are those factors through which the bacteria can cause the disease and spread the disease and survive inside the host. And here, the cord factor is a glycolipid. The most important property of the cord factor is that the virulent strains of MTB, which have the cord factor, is easily identified under the microscope by identifying the serpentine cord-like pattern. Serpentine cord-like pattern is the snake-like pattern. As you can see, it is twisted, winded like a snake is twisted and winded. This is known as serpentine cord-like pattern. You can detect it in the virulent strains of the mycobacteria. Also, Mycobacterium tuberculosis is non-spore forming and non-motile. Let's cover the pathogenesis of MTB. From the first step to the sixth step, you will cover all the essential details you have to remember for the pathogenesis. So, the first step is transmission, the inhalation of respiratory droplets or aerosols that contain the bacilli and it will reach the alveoli. The bacilli, when reaching the alveoli, is phagocytosed by the alveolar macrophage. Inside the macrophage, the bacilli is in the form of phagosome. And the bacilli block the fusion of phagosome with the lysosome because the lysosomal enzymes will kill the bacilli in the phagosome. So this fusion is inhibited by the ERP protein produced by the bacilli, causes the bacilli to survive intracellularly. So the lesion that is formed in case of initial infection is exudative lesion, which is comprised of acute inflammation. So a Ghon focus is formed after the initial infection. It is a localized lesion and in the lower lobe of the lung. Inside the Ghon focus, granuloma formation takes place as the macrophage is differentiated into epithelioid cells with the help of T cells through the signals IF and gamma. So the epithelioid cells which contains the bacilli and the Langerhans giant cells surrounded by the lymphocytes forms a granuloma. The lesion is granulomatous lesion and the protein produced by bacilli at this stage is ESAT6 protein and the TNT protein. ESAT6, remember that all these proteins are required for the survival of the bacteria. So the ESAT6 protein will suppress the immune response by reducing the IFN gamma here. And the TNT protein is the tuberculosis necrotizing toxin. Tuberculosis necrotizing toxin will causes the necrosis of the macrophage which contain the bacilli. So the macrophage will undergo death. This is causes the area of caseating necrosis in the center of the granuloma. So because of the death of the macrophage caused by the TNT protein. So the Ghon focus which contains the granuloma and central area of caseating necrosis when combined with the regional lymph nodes, means the Ghon focus plus the regional lymph nodes are involved. This is known as a Ghon complex. The Ghon complex may calcify and fibrose become dormant, means it is present at the place. It will not spread. It will not cause symptoms. The bacteria will become dormant. It is a primary TB case in which the patient is immunocompetent. The disease is not spread. This is a latent infection. But in later in life, when the person is immunocompromised, the TB bacteria, the Ghon complex rupture, the area from the area of caseating necrosis, the bacteria will spread, and this causes progression and reactivation, secondary TB. Progressive primary TB spread to other areas of the lungs. It can cause disseminated or miliary TB via the blood. It spread through the blood, and this procedure is known as secondary TB infection, which occurs in the upper lobe and the apices of the lung, where the primary TB occurs in the lower lobe of the lung. Now let's summarize the whole procedure in this picture. As you can see, this is the person with TB. It spreads the TB through sneezing, coughing. The respiratory droplets or aerosols will go into the other persons. It will reach the alveoli. The alveolar macrophages will engulf the bacteria. The alveolar macrophage will undergo granuloma formation. Plus, first the localized lesion is formed, the Ghon focus, and inside the Ghon focus, the granuloma will be formed. As you can see, these are the epithelioid cells plus the Langerhans giant cells and neutrophils too, surrounded by the lymphocytes, the T and B lymphocytes. These are the bacilli which are present in the center. And then the area of caseating necrosis will be formed. The macrophage, as you can see here, the macrophage with that engulf the bacteria will die, and this will result in the formation of caseating necrosis. And when the caseating necrosis, when the immunocompromised stage will be reached and the reactivation occurs, this granuloma will burst and release the bacteria from the center, and this causes the reactivation and transmission that result in secondary TB later in life. But when it is closed inside the caseating necrosis area, this is a dormant stage and primary TB. But when it rupture and spreads, this is secondary TB, which causes reactivation and transmission.